Welcome to Fireside Knicks. My name is Alex, my co-host here, Brett Hanfling. Knicks coming off a big win against the Philadelphia 76ers on Monday evening. Of course, no Joel Embiid or Tobias Harris. So the Knicks kind of got away with one there, having a couple of players out. But as Brett told me before the show, he kind of hoped Embiid would play. We want to get more evaluation, more of a look about this team. And I'm curious to hear what you have to think about that game.
Yeah. Listen, you play who comes across the court, and Joel Embiid was out, Tobias Harris out, also Matisse Thybulle out, a good defender. Was Joel out? It was announced he was going to rest, but then it was announced he had COVID. But was he going to rest because of that 2 for 7 shooting performance versus Mitchell Robinson 2 weeks ago? Who am I to say? Probably not. But the Knicks take care of business. It wasn't a pretty game. It wasn't that exciting of a game. They got up early. They gave up. They sort of blew that lead like we've been doing a bunch of games. But they took care of business in the fourth quarter, led by Julius Randle, who really needed to step up. 31 points, 5 of 10 from three, 12 of 25 from the field. Some big buckets down the stretch, and the Knicks got it done. A nice win by 7 versus banged up Philly team, but in Philly. And it's a good win coming off a loss versus Cleveland.
Yeah, they needed a big performance in Julius Randle here, and he provided just that. As you said, 31 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists. He shot 50% from three-point range, 12 of 25 from the field over 36 minutes. The rest of the team otherwise was not very good. Noel, of course, had a solid defensive game. He got knocked out about the halfway point due to the knee sprain. So we'll give some more information once that comes up this week. And then you have Evan Fournier, who had 11 points, 1 for 4 from three. And really the only other player that stood out to me was Emmanuel Quickley, who's finally shooting really, really well. He shot 75% against Philadelphia and 40% against Cleveland. So he's finally starting to show signs of life here this season. He'll start off pretty slow, but when Emmanuel Quickley is playing well, the Knicks just look better. He's a solid defender now. He's been taking a lot of tips from Drew Holiday, who's a really, really great guard, defender, one of the best in the league. So he's been going to him and saying, what can you offer me? What kind of tips can you offer? And basically, he was like, high intensity effort. That's what you need to do when you're playing this point guard, shooting guard position, because the Knicks have been really, really beaten up by kind of other teams that aren't great 3-point shooting teams. Like Cleveland shot 54%. Of course, Ricky Rubio went parabolic, hitting 8 of 9 3-pointers. But, it's just their perimeter guarding hasn't been great.
Just to piggyback off that, there was a stat going into last night. I don't know how it changed. The Knicks opponents led the league in wide open threes, which they classify as no one within 6 feet. That's strange for a Tom Thibodeau team. But, hearing that stat and watching the game sort of made sense. We've let up a lot of threes. The Rubio threes actually weren't wide open. It was the Ricky Rubio game, career high. And, it's tough. Some of it's deep. It goes back to what we said last week. Some of it's defense and some of it's good shot making. But just want to go back to Quickley. I'm a big Quickley fan. We didn't expect that much from him last season. Going into the season, he really surprised us, gave us 3-point shooting, gave us a spark off the bench. This season, he started out with a struggle. The depth chart is bigger, it's tighter, it's tough to get minutes. As a basketball player myself, I know it's tough to get in a rhythm when you're not getting the minutes, and when you get those, the 8 to 10 minutes a game, every shot just becomes more important, and you start to think about it more, you start to feel about it more. So, early in the season, he wasn't getting any type of rhythm. Like you said, he was 2 for 5 from 3 last game versus Cleveland, 3 for 4 this game. Not just hitting threes, like confident threes, off the dribble threes, early in the clock threes. And just has given us a real spark the last 2 games. And 3 games going back to the Milwaukee game. I don't think he quite shot as well in the Milwaukee
33%.
game. But he was a spark in the Milwaukee game as well.
Yeah, I know. Against Philadelphia, he was a momentum shifter, right? Every time Philadelphia answered or they had a small little run, Quickley would come on and he would provide pretty tantalizing defense. His defense has gotten exponentially better, in my opinion. He's really, really doing a good job in press, on ball defense, and I think that's been a really big part of him getting early minutes this season, despite the shooting woes. And his 3-point percentage is elevating significantly over the past couple of games. He was a catalyst yesterday. Julius Randle carried that team on his shoulders. He provided the energy, he provided the hustle, and really gave them that extra edge, especially in the fourth quarter. But Quickley has just looked like a different player the last couple games. He looks more confident. And by the way, him and Tyrese Maxey are like identical players. They look and play
Well,
exactly the same.
Breen, I didn't see anything on his Twitter. Breen actually called Quickly Maxi on like a big play. He was like Maxi down the lane, delivers it to Julius. No one caught Clyde or no one caught it, but yeah, the two Kentucky guards, they were together at the same time. If you remember, Quickley crossed him up last time we played them, his good buddy, and hit the three. But yeah, Maxi's a good player. I don't know if he's quite a point guard without, they sort of have him in this point guard role a lot, but he's a good scorer. Um, Philly has good scorers. They have Korkmaz and Drummond was a beast on the boards and put in
25
points.
rebounds
Yeah.
at
So
all.
it's, they have, Niang's a good shooter and Seth Curry's a good shooter. They have good shooting, but, we definitely limited them to under 100 points is impressive, especially so far this season. The Knicks are ranked 25th in defensive efficiency, and they're fourth in offensive efficiency. We talked about this last week, but that disparity is surprising, but it's a step in the right direction to keep Philly under 100 points.
Yeah, I mean, Philadelphia is the top 3-point shooting team in the league right now. They're number one.
Yeah.
And the
Are they?
Knicks,
Yeah.
yeah, they were making teams like Cleveland look really, really good. And I think that they had a pretty solid game. I think they held them to about 32% shooting from deep. Yeah, 32.5%. Both teams actually shot 32.5%. They hit the exact same amount on 40 attempts, which is
Interesting.
actually pretty insane.
That's
Um, weird stat. But for the Knicks here, I'm kind of seeing this team that I don't think has an identity yet, right? They're living and dying by the three on both sides. They're losing games because they're of poor perimeter defense, and they're losing games because of poor 3-point shooting. They haven't really established themselves as anything yet, and I think that's like a kind of a concern for me. The hustle hasn't been there, and that's really a big part of playing good defense. Just hustle and energy, and that's what they had last year. They were going hard all game long, and they just give up at times. They just don't look like they're hustling. They're out of position. They're not closing out shots, and I think that that's really what's standing out to me early in the season. They're just lacking that bit of energy, and I don't know why. Maybe it's stamina issues. But do you have any ideas into why that might be
Yeah,
happening?
I mean, the defensive part, it's tough to say. I mean, it's a Tom Thibodeau led team. Maybe a little bit of how we came out flying, and I sort of said it in the third podcast we did. I was like, this is an offensive team, and maybe that sort of got in the players' heads as well, as they could score with these high powered offenses. It's tough to say. Teams are hitting shots, but we're leaving them open. I expect it to get better. I expect Tibbs to be on them. I expect the players to take it on themselves between Julius and RJ and Rose and these big time players. But the offensive part of it, I said it last week. I'm not that worried. We are we have lost some games by the 3-point, but overall we're fifth in 3-point percentage. So, you'd like it not to be so hit or miss. You like it to be more consistent. So when we have those bad games, we don't lose because of it. But because we're fifth in 3-point percentage, I expect, it to work out more than it doesn't. The league is going that way. We have the shooters, like we said, Quickly is coming alive, and, I expect it to help us more than it'll hurt us.
Well, that's the hope. We need Quickly to be playing good because with what comes with Kemba Walker and Derrick Rose is eventual fatigue issues. So you're going to need guys like Quickly to step in and really, take over and have some big performances and some consistent outings. He's young. He's got fresh legs. They need him to be a big part of the team. They need him to be playing 10 minutes plus per game, in my opinion, and good basketball too. Like not just coming in, taking some shots, but handling the ball, passing it efficiently, not always just trying to force up 3-point shots. Sometimes he gets a little overzealous and just tries to heave up shots. And that's when he's playing his worst. Yesterday, he was taking clean looks. He was getting into good positions. He was taking efficient shots. And I think that's what really separated this past performance from the others. And then Cleveland as well was pretty good.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little about his rookie mate from last year, Obi Toppin. I am a little bit confused. Now, listen, Tibbs won the Coach of the Year last year, so I give him slack, and overall, I think he's doing a good job. But the Obi thing is a little puzzling to me. He played 9 minutes last night. He was good in those 9 minutes. He scored. He scored. He was 2 for 3. He had a +10 plus minus. Now plus minus can be misleading. 3 rebounds, 3 assists.
I think it was just because Randle was playing so well and Taj Gibson was having a pretty decent game.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm not overly worried, but I think it's a
He's just not a
little weird.
rebounder.
He's only
I
playing
get it. I
14
get why
minutes
they
a
did
game.
it because I get they did it because Obi Toppin is not a great rebounder. He's not a great rebounder. And they had Andre Drummond in there posting 25 rebounds, 8 offensive. They needed a bigger body, and Julius Randle was playing so well. They just didn't need Obi. They just didn't need him. And they couldn't utilize him properly because they needed a legitimate center like Taj Gibson to actually contest Andre Drummond because Drummond was just bodying all those young guys
Yeah,
like Toppin to
uh,
come
I,
in.
I
So I get it. It was strategic.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, the only counter that is I feel like Toppin could sort of draw Drummond out to the three, so he's not clogging the lane if Drummond's guarding him. And also, Obi, could try to beat Drummond down court when Drummond goes for offensive boards. Like I said, it's not that big of a deal. I'd like to see Obi's minutes just inch up a bit, but I know we have depth, and Taj is playing good, and Mitch is playing good, and Erlin's playing good, and Julius is going to play big minutes. So it's going to be tough.
I think in a perfect world, Randall is able to be rested like a fair amount during the game. The Knicks are playing consistent, strong basketball, and they can get Obi Toppin more minutes that way. I think that's what they envision. But they've just struggled to open the year in some categories, like hustle, energy, and Julius Randle represents those things. When he's on the court, he brings energy, he brings physicality and hustle, and they want somebody else to step up and really no one's taken over that role yet. I think Quickley has done that the last couple of games, which is why they've kind of won against Milwaukee and Philadelphia. But otherwise, like they need another starter. It was RJ Barrett. His last 2 games have been pretty bad, but I think that he needs to step. He was that guy for a couple of games. They were winning because of it, but they need him to step up again. He's kind of quieting down a bit, but they need him to be consistent.
Yeah, just quickly on RJ, he's flat out not had a good game the last 2 games. Shot the ball poor, but he had a good stretch before that, and sometimes they don't fall down. I'm not that worried about him. He had a couple of big buckets versus the Bucks. It's disappointing to see, but I'm confident RJ will bounce back.
Yeah, I'm not worried about RJ. He's missed a couple 3-point shots. He was 0 for 6 against Cleveland. He was 2 for 8 yesterday. So he's a momentum based player. He needs to be hitting shots and then he's unstoppable. But if he's missing shots, he tends to kind of pile on those misses, and he gets in his own head. I think confidence wise. So I think he's very much a confidence based player. So if he's playing well, he does well. But the second he hits, he has an off game, it kind of reverses the trend. So hopefully he can bounce back. He needs to forget about those. Like Kemba Walker says, gonna kind of have to have amnesia. I think maybe it was Derrick Rose. You have to have amnesia some of these
Yeah,
performances, and just forget about it. But the Knicks right now, in my opinion, still don't have an identity. They're trying to establish that. They need to go back to playing elite level defense, simplify things, guard the perimeter, close out shots, contest them. Like you said, they've not been doing a good job of that, allowing the most points from uncontested 3-point shots this year. So kind of disappointing in that area, but I think they will take steps forward.
yeah, and I think one last thought is: listen, the Knicks are 7-4. And they have miscues. They have defensive miscues. Guys are up and down, and they're still 7-4. So overall, I'm encouraged by this season. We've had some good wins versus Philly, versus Milwaukee, versus Boston. Even though Boston might not be that good this year, I'm encouraged. 7-4. Soon to be 8-4 after they beat Milwaukee tomorrow. Probably 9-4 after they beat the Hornets on Friday. So I'm okay. I'm having fun.
Yeah, me too. We got a couple of Milwaukee's going to be tough on Wednesday, but
Of course,
Hornets
yeah.
Friday. We should hopefully get a win, but let's keep it going, my friends. Knicks are still in the win. They're in the positive right now. They're playing well. They just have a couple things they got to clean up, and knowing Tom Thibodeau, he's going to whip them up into shape as the season goes along. Hopefully, string together some really strong defensive games. Holding Philadelphia to under 100 points is a big win, in my opinion. I hope you enjoyed the show, my friends, and enjoy Knicks basketball further. Make sure to subscribe below on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube as always. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Knicks episode.